And I happened to be very, very talented as a young boy. So all the kids wanted me on their team in the playground. When we got into the classroom, it allowed my study time to be easier because they knew that when it got out onto the field, they wanted me on their team. So it was great for me to be able to break down barriers. And then through my journey as a young player, I played for my school team, as I said. And then at the age of 10 years old, the year after I lost my mum, I was scouted for my town. So Rotherham Town, we had each town in the UK would have a football team that they would select their best players from. And I was fortunate enough to play for and represent my town. And then when I got to 11, 12 years of age, the football club, the local professional football club, signed me. And I joined the local football club, and it was a professional football club. But back in the day, different to it is now, we was allowed to play for our school, play for our town, and also represent our professional football club or a professional football club while still playing for your school and while still representing your town. So it didn't take anything away from that integration you'd got with your friends, where now it's completely different. And so again, I played for my town, and then my when I got to the age of 14, our region of South Yorkshire, which is many towns brought into one area, we were asked to go and play for the region, which meant I was one of the top 11 players in our region, in South Yorkshire. So that was a huge achievement. And then Rotherham Boys finished. I started to really concentrate at Rotherham United as a young professional football club. And we played from the age of 16 for 1 year to see if the club wanted to take us on as apprenticeship footballers. And that was my first contract at the age of 16. So 16 to 18, I signed for Rotherham United as a young professional. Then I got scouted to go and trial out for England under 16s. So I was there with Paul Scholes, Gary Neville, Nicky Butt, Sol Campbell, David Beckham's of this world. So I was mixing with some really top players at the time, and I got to the last 30 in the selection, and they selected 20 players, and unfortunately I didn't get selected into the England under 16 squad. But then continued playing football, and I made my debut at 18 years old, and football was always my passion and my love. When it turned to professional football, the mindset had to change from, or my mindset changed from the pure love of playing to now this is a job. This is a career. This is a pathway you have to really focus and dedicate your life to. Physically, mentally, you only train an hour and a half, 2 hours a day. The rest of the time is about dedicating your body to the sport, looking after yourself. And so from playing in the playground, jumpers for goalposts, as I call it, the passion and the love of football had a different meaning to me, and I found it difficult. And also physically on my body at the time, still being fairly slight. I was only 10 stone 10 at the time, so I'll let you convert that into kilograms for me. You're the educated ones. I found it physically really, really challenging now, being a professional footballer. So I did another 3 years at Rotherham United, played some first team games, played in the FA Cup, played some competitive games, played a lot of reserve games as well. And then a new manager came in, and I was moved on to Bradford City, and Bradford's got a big Asian community, both Indian and Pakistan community, Indian and Pakistan in Bradford at the time, a city here in the UK. And so, you know, that then really ignited the media of seeing the first Asian footballer coming to Bradford. But unfortunately, when I was playing at Bradford, I lost my father, which affected me mentally. When I look back now, affected me mentally harder than what I thought it did at the time. And my focus on football wasn't as focused as I should have been. And when I look back now, and we're talking about football and education in the community here on this live chat, this is why I really want to highlight why education is massively important to go alongside any talented individual that may focusing on a career in not just football but in sport in general. Because I didn't, because I was that talented footballer, because I was trialing out for England boys at 16, did I focus at school the way I should have done? Absolutely not. And you should see me now I'm homeschooling my own children now. I've got a boy at 13 and my daughter's 15, and I've got the stick ready for them now, saying you better be focusing on your school, because this is how we have to bring our children up now, because education is hugely important. And a lot of the programs I run here in the UK is about giving talented footballers the chance to fulfill their dream, but also to really focus on a career and education, because I don't see it as a backup. I see it as important as what goes on the grass. Football's a short career. My career as a professional footballer, I went out of left Bradford when I was 22, 23, and then went to play in the Conference, which is still full-time football. And that was a time then I realised that, okay, you're not going to be this multimillionaire football player playing for England. Some reality started to come home pretty harshly, and that's when I started to take my coaching badges at a young age. I was fairly young, still in mid-20s, playing still full-time football, but having to really focus on getting qualified, getting educated in the game. And I started then to work in academy football, started to coach and manage and train players whilst I was still playing. And then working in professional football clubs, looking at the different different roles within football clubs. So looking at the community aspect, looking at the academies, working closely with those departments, with my experience of being an ex-player. And as I am today, being a director and a part owner of a football club, an historic football club at that, the world's first football club in Sheffield FC. So my journey has been up and down, some challenges along the way, like all sportswomen have. But my core values are that what would I have done differently with Chris Dolby as a young boy? I've got many answers to those questions. Hence, I want to give something back in trying to guide football clubs, trying to guide governing bodies on don't let the 98% that don't make the grade fall by the wayside. Let's have a duty of care for the 100% of the individuals that go into this journey, because we all know that the success rates are very, very small.
Well, yeah, that's a fascinating, very exceptional journey that you just narrated. I mean, it has been quite challenging, and yet at a very young age, in your early teenage, as we get it, that you got into some sort of professional football representing your town, and when you were around 16, 18 years age, you were already signing contracts and moving into football as a career. So if you look at how the profession of football or the profession of sports itself over the last 20, 30 years, do you think it has changed, or do you think it has become easier for people to now choose sports as a career?
I think the challenges are different. You know, the challenges now, my biggest bugbear here in the UK is the young age we take children into professional football and really take them away from school football. We take them away from playing for the love of the game. You know, we're taking children now without signing contracts, but I'm seeing young players go to professional football clubs in development centres at the age of 5, 6. At the age of 7 and 8, I'm seeing these same players being told that they're not good enough to be in a professional football club. So as a mindset for these young players that should be just playing for the love of the game, and now wrapped up in professional football clubs, wrapped up in, am I good enough? Am I not good enough? For me, it's too young. I see an article that Bayern Munich are moving their academy to the age of under 11s, under 12s next year, which means that they're not taking players at 5 and 6. Let them develop, let them play, let them enjoy the game, because there's a long time with stress on your shoulders if you are fortunate enough to make a professional sportsman. So at the age of 5, 6, right up to leaving school, you should be playing because you have an absolute passion and love for the sport.
Right, I agree. Yes, I mean, there's a sort of a corporatification happening. Sports is also becoming like a corporate entity, and it's affecting students at a young age, as you said. But how about people? So in corporates, we talk of a midlife crisis, right? After 35, after 40, what do we do? And in sports, it's particularly very important because the prime of an athletic career is maybe 20s and early 30s. So as a professional of sports, what do you see can be the career of people who are post that age? Because that's a major worry when people think of choosing sports as a career.
It goes back to education. I mean, for me, if you are, and we do it here in the UK, and we do it reasonably well, but actually, if you put yourself in the shoes of a professional football club first team manager, and let's be brutally honest here, what is your aim and ambition? Your aim and ambition is to win football matches. Your aim and ambition is to potentially try and get promotion or win a cup. Okay? Is your lifespan as a professional manager is maybe 15 months to 18 months in one football club. That's how quickly managers can change. We all know that. The lifespan of a football manager is short-lived. That means that his focus or her focus isn't really focusing on, okay, I've got all these young players coming through my football club. What are these players going to do if they don't make the grade? Do you think that first team manager is really focused on what career path those young players are going to make if they don't make the grade? Absolutely not. That manager is focused on winning football matches, getting promotion, and getting himself a better name in the game. We moved down the system, so we moved to the youth development. Okay, the youth development coaches, managers, are judged on how many players they get into the first team. And we're talking about 2% actually get through that system. So what happens to the 98%? Do you think this youth development manager is going to have a real focus on what the 98% are going to do when they leave his football club? Absolutely not. We can all play at lip service, but actually people within the industry itself are looking after their own roles and responsibilities. So 98% will then leave the professional game and then go, wow, what am I going to do now? And that is why I feel, and we do play at lip service to a certain extent here in the UK, but what happens to these players? I mean, education, here, if you're a scholarship player, you will study 1.5 to 2 days a week. The rest of the time is spent on the grass, learning your trade as a footballer. But for me, football clubs should take a bigger responsibility in the 98% that don't make the grade, because that's a lot of players being churned out year on year that aren't making professional footballers. Where are they going to go in society? What roles are they going to pick up? You know, you look at a professional football game live on Sky, for example. Now, when I played, there was the manager on the bench, there was the assistant manager, and there may be a physio. That was it. You look at Sky Sports now, you look at a bench, you look at Mourinho when he sat on the bench at Tottenham Hotspur, for example. There's 10, 15 members of staff sat behind him, all doing their own unique roles within the world of football. Sports scientists, physiotherapists, analysts. You got the mental fitness coach who's looking after the well-being of players, the dietitian, the video analysis. All these things, all these roles and responsibilities are great opportunities, not only just in football, but in other sports as well. So we should be educating our footballers that are coming through this system, that open your mind to the world of sport, because you may be the unfortunate one that doesn't make the grade. And if you don't make the grade, you still have something to give. You still have a great passion and love and skill for sport. So why don't we channel that into education, that in education, that because when I was at school, when people talked about education, it was, I don't really want to, I love playing football, I don't really want to study. But actually, if I had got what these players had got now, the courses and the degrees and the undergrad courses that are out there, and the masters and the MBA courses around sport and around football, then I would have really loved to have done that, because it's something I'm passionate about, and it's how we can educate the clubs and how we can educate the individuals that think outside the box. Okay, and if you do make a professional footballer, your lifespan as a player is short-lived. If you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, you're only just qualifying when these lads are finishing playing professional footballer. So let's have a mindset of, I'm going to be on this earth for a long time, so I need to study now at a young age and get as much information and as much education and knowledge as I possibly can. Don't stop learning. That is my sort of, my big thing now to young players.
That's a very powerful advice, because when we hear this advice coming from as a young sports person, if we hear this coming from our parents, we are not so receptive about this idea of managing our studies along with sports. But listening this from a successful sports person is a different story altogether. So thanks for sharing that insight. So on that note, your football club, which happens to be the world's oldest football club, is doing some interesting work in this regard. I saw on the website that you have an entire foundation which you are directing, and they're working on education. So can you tell us more about what do you do in sports and education through your foundation?
Well, there's a number of things. I mean, we pick up students now at the age of 16. So we're talking about the 98% dropout rate here in professional football clubs. So we've designed programs that partner with established education providers, sixth form colleges. We go and bring talented footballers that have just missed out for whatever reason, and we put them through a 2-year education program here in the UK, which aligns their education studies with football development. But where I spoke before about professional football clubs will dedicate maybe a day to a day and a half, our students study every single day. So they will be studying A-levels or B-Techs that will lead them on to higher education. So a degree, okay, in a chosen subject. So we see our picking students up at 16. We've got a journey now of 5 years. So we do post 16, 16 to 18 education, football development. So we put our coaches in there. We develop them on the grass. But as I've just said there, we will ensure they study with high quality teaching and learning by established education settings. So you've got high quality education, high quality football development, and then we can help the better players when they get to 18, 19, have a chance to play in our first team. And we're not saying we're the ceiling here, but we're part of that journey. If a young player then comes into our system, he may go off to study one of our degrees, but can still continue his development at a really high level of football. Then that player may move on to a professional club. So that journey now, all of a sudden, instead of being pigeonholed into, am I going to be a professional footballer? Am I not going to be a professional footballer? Is we've opened up a big wide world to this, to these individuals. So the world is opened up now. You can go and study. You can play football without stress. You can educate yourself. We'll make sure that you get the qualifications to take you on to higher education. And then we're seeing boys go on to the age of 21, leaving with a great education behind them and going into the world of sport and getting full-time careers in the world of sport and still playing, by the way, at a really good level. So I've now got 5 professors, a company called 5 Global, 5 professors that work here in the UK. And between ourselves and 5 Global, we design programs, higher education. So masters degrees in the world of football and MAs and short courses as well. And it's sort of putting my non-academic skills into what the academics can build. It makes it really powerful because I've been on that journey. So I know exactly how this model needs to sit, what it needs to target, how it needs to engage with the students. And then 5 Global can design the courses to make sure that at the end of this journey, we've ticked every box that's needed to ensure the student, the player, can reach their true potential.
Great. So I'll come to a question on that, on how we can bring some of this to India. But I see that some of our audience also want to ask a question. But based on your journey, I have a question before I open it to the audience. You were telling about your childhood and then how you grew in the world of sports. So sports is also seen as a unifying factor in the community. So what role have you seen of sports in your own life in building a strong community, in building harmony, in building social skills in our youth?
Well, the community is everything to me in regards to how the responsibility of let's look at professional football clubs to start with. You now see professional football clubs having well-established community departments, football and education department, because football club owners realize that the community they have to serve, they have to integrate with their community and ensure that the young people can integrate with the club through many different. I'm talking about playing for the love of the game, education in schools, taking coaches out of the clubs into schools to help schools upskill school teachers, because the point I made earlier, schools are so important to how you grow the game. The governing body can only do so much. We're talking about India. Here's a huge place, okay? How can a governing body ensure that everybody gets access to football? Well, the simple way for me is that they need to integrate really closely with the governing bodies of the game, need to integrate with the schools and how school teachers can pick up the basic knowledge, because when we work in schools, we're not asking for the coaches to be Jose Mourinho. We're not asking for that. We just want a teacher to be able to put cones down for goalpost and to be able to put bibs on so they know what team they're on, and to let the kids play. Because that is the way you're going to build the passion for the sport within India. Grassroots, within schools, whilst the children are learning, whilst you've got them in one place, expose them to the beautiful game of football. That's what I feel is possibly missing, because we look at, I've been on conversations recently about football and how we can bring in sports science and how we can bring in the technical aspect. I think forget that for now. Get the kids playing and get them playing and enjoying the game, because from there you will develop a nation like cricket, where it's just second nature to go, the passion is there. It's ingrained in the country. Football is ingrained in our country here in the UK. Kids grow up absolutely knowing that football is either part of their dad's life or their brother's life or their mother's life or whatever. Football's part of our culture. And that's because when you step into school, it's one of the first sports that you're exposed to. So community aspect, going back to your question, community is so important to how I related to my friends that are now from back in school day. You know, I've got friends now at 45 years old that I met when I was 5 years old. They're still my best friends. So that tells you the power of community and the power of football and sport in itself, you know.
Yeah, and that's very fascinating because you're talking of India and football. So a lot of times we have this debate in our mind that did we choose the right sport in cricket? Of course, India is a very successful country when it comes to the game of cricket, but perhaps it has not gone to the grassroots because cricket requires a certain quality of equipment and infrastructure to be able to get a professional practice. But football is relatively easy, right? All you need is grass, and when you have a field, you can develop your professional skills. So, do you think we should rethink what's our primary sport when we project to our people?
Yeah, I mean, primary sport. What we're not talking about here is changing the culture, changing the past, the history, the real roots of the successes of India. You know, sport within India. Let's not kid ourselves, and we're trying to change that, because we're not. I think what we're saying here is to integrate. I've just spent, it was a year ago now, I spent some time out in China. I was looking at a development program that had been set up in Wuhan, of all places, where allegedly this virus had come from. But this was a year ago, so I'm okay, guys. I'm good. But you know, I was astonished to see how they had started to integrate sport in schools. The culture there, they'd put really good quality coaching into schools programs. And I think China realized pretty quickly that throwing money at the top would never build you the infrastructure that you needed to survive. And the millions and billions of pounds that have been thrown at the top, you know, once the players had creamed off their wealth from playing in that country for a year or two, they were left with nothing. The clubs were left with nothing. The country was left with nothing. So China has really changed their mindset, and again, mass numbers. You're talking huge numbers in the population. You know, if China can get it right, then they will be a force in the future in the world of football, because you only have to do your calculations, numbers, mass numbers, with the right development plan at a very, very young age within the school environment. You've got a chance of creating real talented sportsmen and women in the future.
That's very right. Thank you. So our audience are also asking some questions, and I'll encourage, if anyone has a question, they can raise their hand, and we'll invite you to unmute yourself and ask your question. But something that I've received on chat, I'll put that to you, Chris. So
okay.
Sabat Fazil is asking what sports should we take for our 4 to 12-year kids? So perhaps the person is from sports education or a school system. So how can we educate them about sports, and how can we involve them more in sports?
Well, again, at the age of 12, we're talking here in the UK, secondary school. So, you're going into, you've left primary school, you're going into secondary school. I think it's a great age to start educating. The one thing that I look back on when I was at school is the lack of information we was given to the opportunities that was out there for individuals in sport, in the world of sport. And I touched on some of them earlier about, media, science, technology. You put sport in front of all those titles, and you then engage individuals that may not be gifted sports people, individuals as in on the grass, maybe not a gifted footballer, but has a real passion for football. So we have to try and change his mindset to try and pigeonhole, okay, if you're a talented footballer, then, you may be interested in the world of sport during your career or after your career. We need to change that mindset and think, well, actually, a career in sport may be applicable to somebody who's not a gifted sports individual, but has real passion for sport, has a real insight into how the science of sport can improve a sportsman, for example, or how technology can improve a club by 1%. That means they go on and win a league, or they go on and win a cup. So that is what I would try and encourage into schools, is try and be open-minded to the careers that sport can bring to individuals, regardless of if they are talented sports individuals or not.
Thank you. There is another question that we definitely understand that sports at a young age is very important for people who want to get into professional sports or sports as a career. But in general, for normal people who are aspiring for other careers, or who are not so interested in physical activity, do you think sports is still as relevant?
Well, it's a career choice. Sport here in the UK is booming in regards to the number of students now that are enrolling on sports related courses. That is undergraduate and masters and MA courses as well. So if you look at the universities here in the UK and you look at post-16 education, massively now numbers are enrolling on sports related courses. The one thing you have to try to encourage when students are making decisions are, do they have a passion for sport? Because if you don't have a passion for sport and you're not a talented sports person, then the answer to the question that you just asked me is, well, then a sports course is not relevant for you. It's quite a simple decision to come to. But if sport is a passion, and you are enthused by cricket or you're enthused by football, then having the right information given to you about the career opportunities, that I think that's the important bit for the youngsters of today. Try and open their minds to what this career in sport can lead to, because I know people with some great jobs in the world of sport, we're sat here now talking about sport because we've all got passions for football or some kind of sport. So, and the health and well-being benefits of participating is huge, absolutely huge. Tackling, early health problems, diabetes, and listen. When I was at school, we played lots of sports. I look at children now, and they don't play as much sport as we did as kids. So I think just the health and well-being aspect of it is important to get that message across.
Right. So even if you're not interested in professional sports, some amount of sport will definitely help us in our health and fitness and well-being. So
Absolutely.
Ritik has asked a very interesting question that nowadays people are playing video games. They're playing sports on mobile, and they're the field is getting replaced by the phone. So what do we do to encourage people to actually go on the field rather than stick to the phone?
Well, if you can find that answer to that question out, let me know. I can go and grab my boy off his PlayStation at the moment next door. But no, it's a difficult. Listen, technology moves on, as we said before, and again we have to try and encourage the use of the technology that is there now. I mean, I look at some of the games that, joking apart, that my boy plays now on FIFA, and he can talk about football formation better than some of the coaches I know that have worked in the professional game. He can buy a player and sell a player and come out with profit better than some of the chairmen that I've met and worked with before. So there's aspects of the gaming world that gives the skill sets to go into the real life, world of sport. And a story that I was told not so long ago, that clubs have the game in FIFA attached to their professional football club. So Man City will have a FIFA expert playing under the brand of Man City, and all the professional football clubs will do so. And I heard a story that Pep Guardiola pulled in the FIFA expert to explain how the Man City fullback was going to deal with the right winger, who was a professional player in the Premier League. He wanted to know how he would work his fullback on the gaming, because it had been tuned into such technical information that how they worked it on the system would be possibly a way that how his professional player could deal with the real life situation on a Saturday. And that is how much information is being fed into the gaming world, to the absolute technical aspect of how a player defends against a right winger. Let's say Kyle Walker's playing against one of the top Liverpool Salas, let's say, and on the gaming world there'll be a system to how he beats him. And Pep actually called in the FIFA expert to try and explain to him how he would do it, and he transferred that into the real life football game on a Saturday. So technology is amazing on what it can deliver now. So we don't want to knock technology. How do you get them out of the chair to go and get some exercise and play football? Is a difficult one. It's like I said, I'm trying to get my boy to get more exercise now. So I've got the challenges here.
That's a very interesting point that you're making, because when we're designing our own education, our institution, gamification and simulations become a very important part in the way we want to teach, not just people who are in sports, but people in general. Because as you said, technology is providing that kind of an insight and ability for people to think on technical terms. So they may not be able to perform on the field, but when it comes to management, they're doing pretty well, and technology is giving.
Absolutely.
So if we are able to balance that on-field time and on-phone time, it will be a blessing.
Yep, that's right.
One final question from my side, and we see if our audience also wants to ask something. You're talking about your group of professors, and you're developing these programs. So I wanted to know what is it that you would like to do with India, or how can we support you in your endeavors to bring sports and education together? Because there are some people who are very passionate about sports in this webinar.
Well, I don't think it's a case of what I would want to bring to India or take out of the conversation. I think for me, it's more of a passion of how we can help support the development and linking education to the football clubs that are currently operating. The system we have here is that the ability to create and shape courses to suit the needs of the individuals, rather than trying to pigeonhole individuals into a course that doesn't quite fit with them. So that's the way our professors work here with the guidance of Sheffield Football Club. Our partnership here in the UK that I've recently developed over the last year is with Leeds United Football Club. So Sheffield Football Club, Leeds United Football Club and Five Global come together. So you've got potentially, if the football starts again here in the UK, Leeds United could potentially be going to the Premiership this year, the top of the Championship now. So 9 games to go, they will become a Premiership football club. You've got Sheffield Football Club, the world's first football club, formed in 1857, with all the history and heritage and the work that we've done with the likes of Borussia Dortmund and the big clubs. So we've got a great network in world football because of our place that we sit in the world of football. As Pelé once said, the great Pelé once said, without Sheffield Football Club, there may not have been me, which means that if we'd have not created the world's first football club, would Pelé have been the best player in the world? We don't know. But so we like to create and work with partners. We work with a number of partners. We've started to work with education providers within India, so creating short courses, 3-month modules, MA courses, MBAs, and for example, we've created a scouting module that looks at how people operate within the world of scouting, how you select players, how you can use analysis to bring the better players into your system. So there's lots of ways that we attach ourselves and work in partnership with colleges and universities, bringing our expertise in. And it's really down to, I believe, the individuals on how they want to work with what we've got to offer, really, in regards to 5 experienced professors here in the UK and 2 unique established professional football clubs.
Thanks a lot for that. These are very interesting ideas, and I'm sure as a university, Rishihood and many of the people in the education fraternity here would want to make use of this methodology that you've created along with the other professors, so that we can bring more and more people into this field of sports and education. Okay, so there's a question, and we'll keep this as the final question. So the person is from St. Mark's Senior Secondary School. Dharamveer Singh ji is asking that soccer is a great instrument to help in the growth of youth, even in the middle age. Youth, not just youth, but also in the middle age. So how can we encourage people in the middle age towards sports?
Well, sport as a game, we've seen small-sided football now take real lead here in the UK. Futsals and 5-a-side football, as it is known, has really boomed over the last 3 to 4 years. 11-11 football in adult football in recreation football is slowly sort of gone down, but then small-sided games has gone up. So I think people see it as you can commit yourself to maybe 1 hour a week to meet up with friends, put a kit on, get a good sweat on, get your heart rate going, go and have a chat afterwards, a coffee or a drink afterwards, and socialize. So, I think the health and well-being, again, for not only the younger generation, but the seniors out there is a great thing. And again, football can play a massive part in that. Education wise, again, I think we've covered all bases with the opportunities with education linking to football and sport. So the more people that play football, the better for me.
Yeah, let us look at this as an exercise in fitness and also community building for people at that age, because they're not really interested in sports as a career, but what we need to encourage them towards is how can they come together and socialize. Okay, we're getting some more questions. So how important is sports psychology as a subject when we teach teachers, because teachers in the school become the pillar on which then the students learn about sports and everything else. So how important is sports psychology?
Huge. Absolutely. One of the, for me, the psychology of sport, massively important. Not only to help young players develop as players, but also to help them focus on career pathways and how you. Although I was a really, really talented footballer, and from the outside looking in to me, people believed I was ultra confident. I was a really confident individual. Inside, I had lots of fear, lots of doubt, questioning whether I was good enough, questioning my ability. And sports psychology back in my day, when I was starting out as a young player, wasn't around. It was a case of get on with it, toughen up, which is we all know that's not the way forward. So psychology in sport, absolutely massive now, really important. It not only in, psychology in school, psychology for teaching and learning. I think if you can get inside someone's brain and you can understand, because we're all unique. Everyone who was on, the 29 participants that are on this chat today will all be unique, different characters. And we have to know how to, and what makes a good manager is the good manager can relate to everybody and understand what makes that individual tick, what makes them work to the maximum, what gets the best out of them. Where do they have underlying fear, uncertainties. Sports psychology, huge, absolutely.
Thanks for that. So with that, we've come towards the end of our discussion with Chris. So thank you, Chris, so much for sharing these insights, starting from your journey in a very inspiring background of getting into football at a young age of 10 years and then moving to professional, representing your town, and then keeping some of the best friends to this age from your community. Also appreciate the way you remain grounded, and you said that you're still connected to where you were growing up. So it tells the kind of bond that you've developed while playing for that place. And of course, it's fascinating to hear from someone who has been with the oldest football club in the world. We have a lot of takeaways from this session as educators, and of course, we would like to keep our conversation going on as we develop some programs or courses for audience in India. So thanks a lot for that. And I thank all our participants today for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. It's been emotional talking to you all. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. It's sun shining here in the UK, so I'll go and enjoy the sun now.
now we do not have a concept of Saturday or Sunday or Monday. No, all the days are same.
Oh, I know the feeling.
The best part of, just to end of this, the best part of being a sports person is that you're gifted with youthness forever, for your life, right? You're youth
Absolutely.
forever.
It stays.
And it's the
certainly.
only way, I believe, that helps to, it's not only help you to exercise your mind, your body, it's something which is help you to clean your soul entirely, right? Whether it's indoor sports or the outdoor sports, wherever you are, whenever you are into sports, you feel disconnected with everything, but connected with only one thing, which is you, and you can actually work upon all those things, right? So thank you very much,
Absolutely.
Chris.
No, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Sahil,
Thank you
for
for
that,
taking.
and each and every participants for logging in and coming up, and for a great insights and inquiries. God bless you. Stay safe. Stay home. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye now.